Hello, beautiful people. We're going to be talking about this question today. Would you rather have $1 million per year? So every day, I don't know, January 1st, your $1 million comes. Or would you rather have your money, however much money you have right now, double each day? I asked this question. I want you to explore it with me because I love the Would You Rather game, but I also like the game called What If? I play it with my friends a lot, and it's given us some really interesting conversations. And I've actually created 2 questions on what if. They've been answered by over 1,000 people, and there's very similar questions. For example, the first question I started was, what if the amount of money you have doubles every day, but each time you use your phone, you have to pay $20? A similar question, what if you receive $1 million each year, but each time you use your phone, you have to pay $20? Even though those are very similar questions, they got very different answers. I had a lot of my students, when we discussed this what if question as part of our class in the past, express a lot of frustration with the fact that you'd have to pay to use your phone and you'd have to pay $20 each time. We first clarified what was meant by using your phone. And what we came up with is every time you pick up your phone and you open it. So if you're like just clicking to see the time, that didn't count. But if you were opening your phone, every time you open your phone to do something, then that counted as a phone use and would cost you $20. And then if you thought you were just going to get wise and like turn off, never have your phone go dark, it also recounted as a second use anytime you went over the 5-minute mark. So if you open your phone and you're on there for 7 minutes, that would cost $20 for the first 5 minutes and then another $20 for that second use. And of course, that seems very shocking, terribly shocking, and a little bit unfair. Of course, I'm not a teenager, so I remember times when cell phones were exorbitantly expensive already, and very few people could afford to have one. And even the ones they could afford couldn't do all the things that our phones could do. They could just make phone calls. And the reception was terrible, and really only the super wealthy could afford them. So I guess I'm less worried about having to pay to use my phone. But the good news is that if this law came into being and you had to pay $20 to use your phone, you're one of the super wealthy, and you could definitely afford this. Because if we compare the rates of $20 each time to $100 million each time you had to pay for your phone use, if you dared to use Desmos to graph that, you'd see that that really is, pretty sure you've heard the phrase, like a drop in the bucket. That $20 per phone use would be negligible. They wouldn't even, if you were a millionaire, you wouldn't even notice it. Now, what really confused me about this response is that one of these people said yes. Heck yeah, charge me that $20. No problem. And then on one, they seemed really not to be happy about paying $20, and they really resisted that. In fact, 55% of the thousands of people who answered this what if question, 55% said yes if they were going to make $1 million a year. But only 43% said yes if their amount was going to double, which is, of course, the exponential function to exponent x that we've been talking about for a few days. And what was really shocking to me is that here the majority said yes, and here yeses were in the minority. There were fewer people that would say yes to this. So I decided to question about whether the people who are answering this question understood the difference between linear growth of $1 million per year or what would happen if you doubled each day. Now, talking to my students, I've realized that even though they know exponential functions grow quickly, there was a big concern about what would happen if your amount was doubling each day. Like if I'm getting $1 million a year, I know this year I'm going to get $1 million. I know next year I'm going to get $2 million. I'm going to have $3 million the next year, $4 million the next year. So I can kind of easily think about what money would be in my bank account. But if we're dealing with an exponential function, I think that's a lot harder for us to imagine, and certainly much harder for us to do the mathematics in our minds. So we have to use our trusty calculators here to explore this question. What if the amount of money you owe, the amount of money you have doubles each day? Let's imagine, for example, that you started with a penny. So I've written this here. I've written it as 0.01, and then it's going to be times 2 because it's doubling exponent x. And then this graph down here, y2, shows me what if I started with $1. So we're not even talking about huge amounts, okay? So we're going to see when I press second graph, when I press the table, we're going to see a table of all the values, okay? And again, this is doubling every day, right? All right, so on day 0, the person who has a penny still has a penny. The person who has $1 has $1. On day 1, the person with a penny has 2 pennies. The person with $1 has $2. So your first few days are terrible. You know, you, unlike the other person, doesn't have $1 million. So these days you definitely have to use your phone very little because you've got like 2 pennies. But again, on day 3, it's $8. Day 4, it's 16 pennies and $16. Day 5, it's 32 pennies and $32. And of course, it is different, right? I'd much rather have $32 after I started with $1 than 32 pennies. But we're still seeing a lot of growth, even though we started with a penny and someone else started with $1. Okay. If we keep going down, what we can see is, again, that doubling increase starts to happen. And now finally on day 7, after a week, the person who had just 1 penny now has over $1. The person who had $1 has over $100. Okay. Let's take a look what will happen on day 14, 2 weeks after we started making this money. On day 14, the person who started with a penny has $163.84. And the person who started with $1 now has over 16,000. And that's just in 2 weeks. So we went from $1 to 16,000. Now, we still don't have $1 million though. I wonder how long it will take us to get to $1 million. Let's check it out. Oh Lordy. It's getting big. 65,000. Now we're in the 100,000s, 200,000, 500,000. Ooh, $1 million right there. So in only 20 days, the person who started with $1 in 20 days has made $1 million. The other one, it took them a whole year, 365 days, right? You only got $1 million for 365 days, it took you 365 days to make all of that. However, with the person who started with just $1, in 20 days, they have over $1 million. And then let's take a look at the person who started with 1 penny. Okay, they're getting 41,000. Yay. On day 22, they're starting to roll the money, making more than most teachers. Okay. In a year, in less than a month, they made more than most teachers make in a year. Okay. Oh, 500,000. We're on day 25. Excuse me, it was 33. Can't read. This is small numbers, and I'm an old lady. Okay, now we got 671 on day 26. On day 27, the person who started out with a penny has $1 million. Now, I would really love your feedback. I'm still confused, still thoroughly confused. If we're just looking at dollar amounts, I don't know why 55% of people would say yes to just $1 million in 365 days, and most people would say no if they could make $1 million in less than a month, even if they started out with $1 or a penny. Imagine if you started out with $10, $5, $15, $20. Heavens, if you start out with $100, I don't even want to do that math. I think I might break my calculator, okay? And, oh, should I check out 365 days? Let me just see. Crazy. crazy. I don't know. And you'll see here, we're not to 365 days yet. Oops, excuse me, that's too bright. We're not at 365 days yet, but the calculator is telling you E11, which means it's to an exponent, so you have to move the decimal, right? It's obviously not $2.7. So it's hard to interpret, and we're barely over a month through the year. So maybe you can help me understand by your answers. Instead of let's focus on the cell phone. That was very, triggering for a lot of people. Let's just focus on, would you rather have $1 million like these people, or would you rather have money that doubles each day? I cannot wait to hear what you have to say, because maybe you'll help me understand. Is this too rich? I'm not sure. Okay, you guys, I look forward to seeing all of what you have to say, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.